name's Kristy Millers. I'm the Digital Sales Manager for the NRMA. And confessions firstly, I am a salesperson. For some of you that are marketers, that may not potentially sit very well. But I guess fundamentally everybody's here today to learn the things in which that they learn for the commercials, the monetization, everything that we're potentially doing is of course to be able to drive revenue. Our digital maturity, our innovation, our lessons from our data. It's all about how can we back that out at the end and make money. And that's probably the most important part. I've learnt, as most of the guys have kind of gone through their career summaries, I've gone through, I guess, a learning, if you will, over my time. When I was quite young, my parents used to say to me, you're going to be a salesperson. It might have been arguments over bedtime. My first business was in 1985. I was 6 years old. In terms of marketing, I came from not a very wealthy family. And you know, the need to make money and be the kid that was bawling in the canteen line. I started my first business, I guess it was in and around supply and demand. We had an outdoor toilet, and over that outdoor toilet grew chocos. I lived in a, you know, again, scoping to my market, I lived in an area that I guess similar to the NRMA. Was a very ageing environment. There weren't many young kids in the street in order to be able to play with, and I found that I was a great marketing tool to make them feel good about themselves. So in my billy cart, I would go to the end of the street, and at 20 cents a pop, which was a lot of money in 1985, I would sell chocos. And in some cases, my parents, you know, money was in notes in those days. I'll swap you. This is a really shiny coin. I knew the value of money way back then. And so, you know, I probably didn't have the marketing foresight at that point in time to know that my model was partly flawed. My customer base was dying out, literally. And I guess ultimately from that point, that business sadly, I guess suffered its fate and moved on. I then had to get a little bit smarter, knowing that marketing bases, databases die out. I was still a great salesperson. What was I going to do next? So in 1989, I started my next business that was in and around the car washing, car detailing type environment. My father had left some great turtle wax that kind of dried out, but a little bit of water, you could fix it in the garage. So I believed that I had the most unique value proposition. Turtle wax, you know, was relatively expensive in those days, and who could say no to, a rotund but quite cute and chubby little kid that was knocking on their door? Particularly when I was in the market of supply and demand at the same point in time. The day before that I would embark on my, excuse me, may I please wash your car for $5, I would go to the neighbours on either side, and as horrible as this may sound, Mum said, can she borrow an egg? Next door, Mum said, can she borrow an egg? Now, of course, we never did that to our next door neighbours because they knew we borrowed the eggs. But again, in our new environment at the end of the street, we obviously had a new market to be able to work with. And at the end of the day, perception, regardless of what you're selling, I was the great kid in the neighbourhood that was doing things to make a buck. And you know, some businesses are built that way. When I got into my, 12s and 13s and teen years, and again, I didn't come from a family that was relatively wealthy, but I would take the bins out, I would wash the dishes, I would look after my younger brothers and sisters, and I would buy pressure pack spray cans. And with that, I would take the younger kids in the street that I was babysitting and make them rummage through the local tip to find bike parts that we could spray paint and resell. And you know, whilst my parents didn't really have much, and interest rates at that point in time were close to 20%, I had the best bodyboard, the best wetsuits, the best basketball, all through the trade of barter. And I guess, you know, to this point, when I take those lessons of what am I going to do about my dying market space? What am I going to do in order to make sales? What am I going to do? How do I make sure that I have the best possible value proposition with the cleanest ethical policy about it? And how of course do I leverage off other people in order to be able to ultimately get sales? Marketers are responsible for putting the leads in the funnel, more often than not. However, salespeople are responsible for closing them. So once my career actually got to the real world, I moved into the world of, and it was just purely, I started in retail, got a bit bored if I'm honest. I kind of felt like I was just a shelf packer waiting for people to take stuff. There was merit in it, but, and then I moved into call center, as was previously mentioned. And the thing that I really liked about call center is you could build a model and then you could teach people to replicate that model. At that point in time, in the early 90s, call center wasn't oversaturated. There wasn't the influx of outsourced overseas call centers, people that were on the phone. People were delighted to get a call. The receptionist was happy in order to be able to take a call to break up her day of doing her nails and being yelled at for coffees. And there was a science, and the science was make X amount of calls at X conversion, get them to say this, extend your value proposition, and ultimately you will make money. And I thought, wow, this is pretty good. I can work this formula. I'm actually a really good talker sometimes when I don't talk too fast. And I could teach people how to do this in order to be able to make money. Great business. Well, I did it in agency. And that was where I initially cut my teeth. And the agency, in some cases, was what they tried to do. And I worked with a really great entrepreneur by the name of Adam Simons. And he would talk his way into a lot of stuff, and we'd go to meetings and we'd meet with big clients, MCI WorldCom, Telstra, NEC. We had loads of great clients, and he basically created an agency whereby we were completely accountable. We did the above the line, we did the billboards, we did the print, we did the direct mail, we did the fax mail, we did absolutely everything, and we would get in the car and he'd say, and you know what, and we'll get you sales. The big thing is we will do all these things and we will get you sales. We're accountable for what we're going to drive to the funnel, and then we're going to give you the end of the funnel and you're going to give us some money back. And it was a great business model. The tough part is that overseas call centers, people realised, wow, this really works. And as I say, in the late 90s, we were charging telemarketers out at $120 an hour and paying them $16.50. It made a lot of sense. But then, of course, came $2 an hour India. People started getting smashed with calls. The numbers didn't stack up anymore. It was too tough in order to be able to to help maintain that. Businesses decided that they would adopt an account management model to make you feel more special. People weren't asking about, do you actually work for this company or are you one of these outsourced call centers? And so, as I say, the numbers got tougher and tougher, and we moved that all internally. Businesses moved it internally, and they tried to truck through it. Eventually it got too much and they outsourced it. And I guess ultimately when the numbers don't stack up, people look to the innovation and say, what's next? And I guess an industry within digital was born. It started out, everybody needs to get a website and get on the internet, and it's progressed to how much are we prepared to pay for a customer, and is that viable to our ROI? What we can do in digital in this day and age really allows us to say, marketers, you're accountable to the funnel. And I think that's a really, really good thing. It's not a good idea that was baked up over a few beers at the pub that says, people love dogs and people love children, let's put our product next to a dog and a child. It is, we know mathematically from our emotion of our customers and their demographic and where things sit, that this is the most valuable marketplace in order to be able to pull from. And then, of course, from that, get back, and show this is the money in the bank because of what we did. As a salesperson, that once upon a time, and marketers will probably go the other way. Salespeople that aren't performing, complain about their leads. If anyone's ever seen the sales clip that usually gets played in most token sales organisations, it's Glenn Ross, and where you're told that coffee is only for closers, and and people are blaming their sales leads at that point in time. Because I was talking about that whole collaboration piece. The salespeople blame the marketers blame the salespeople. And being the sales manager, and the reason that I got so excited by digital was because it got to a point where I was having 200 odd staff trying to teach them the formula to be able to replicate, and then I'm having to manage who's going to the toilet and when they're going to the toilet, and why can Mary make 100 sales but Tom only make 10? And why is there, who are we recruiting and who is managing these people? And I guess digital probably doesn't send me as grey as managing 200 plus people and why they're calling in sick in a call centre type environment. And of course, I believe that if it is done right and your leads and what it is that you're after and you know your KPIs and you know your customer database, then digital is a very, very profitable channel. And let's be honest, I'm a salesperson, I'm here for the money. So currently I work with an organisation called the NRMA, or the National Roads and Motoring Association. As I say, I sit as the digital sales manager. It's a member-owned organisation, and it's not so much about the money as its ethos, in saying that I am there to make sure that they do make money. It's only 96 years young, so it's been in business since 1920, and I guess the ethos and the culture of that business is we want to help people every day. We want to help people get back on the road. We unlock, we don't expect membership if there's a baby or a dog or somebody locked in a car. We don't expect you to pay a membership subscription fee. We work in unison with the government, with the police, with everybody. If you're in a wheelchair and you've got a flat tyre, you can call the NRMA. That's how committed that this brand is, and I feel like a very valued custodian of that brand. I've never been engrossed in a business whereby once a month we have a celebration lunch, whereby we're celebrating somebody that's worked in the business for 35 years. And this pretty much happens, for those guys that are here from the NRMA, this pretty much happens every single month. Congratulations, 25 years. Congratulations, not quite 95 years. But most of these guys have been there for such a very long time. That family culture. Most people don't know this, and it was a thing, I don't know whether it's being female or what have you, but in the Depression, in those war stages where 50% of our workforce was enlisted in the armed services to go over and fight in the war, the NRMA trained 603 female mechanics so that their business model wouldn't fall over. To me, I find that pretty impressive that, above all bounds, all adversity, all leaps, all odds, we will make sure that this business stays helping people. Our core business is roadside assistance. So you're down the highway, give the NRMA a call, and they'll come out and help you, if you remember. Not if you're in a wheelchair. And in the earlier days, we were partnered with, or we did do, insurance. Most people don't know this, but we are. And I was just actually having that conversation with my IAG counterpart. Is that most people don't know that NRMA Insurance and NRMA Roadside Assistance are two different companies. So we went through demutualisation in 2000. It was talked about for quite some time before it took place. It was going to be pretty complex, and it is quite complex in this day and age, sharing brand terms. There's nothing like the call centre getting an absolute hiding over somebody's insurance payout not going through. There's also nothing like paying for shared brand terms with SEM when we're competing and our bounce rate is massive. I would hazard a guess to say that our bounce rate based on our shared brand terms is very scary, and most of you wouldn't like it in your business. We have 2.4 million members, so it's actually it was the largest membership organisation in Australia. It's an old fact I did get from our intranet system, so don't quote me on it today. And membership revenues alone, we've got a very, very diverse business. Well over $300 million a year. And that's just our core product of getting people on the side of the road and actually helping them. As I say, I can't stress enough that working with such an iconic brand is a privilege. Our business has diversified over the years. When you've got 2.4 million members, let's start looking at customer centricity. How do we make the most amount of money? Again, with my sales hat. We've got the Open Road. Anyone here familiar with that magazine? Yeah, so we've still got the Open Road today in a printed format that goes out to members on a bi-monthly basis for them to read. And with our new CEO that's taken place that has a very digital focus, we will still have the open road that will go out on a bi-monthly basis in a printed magazine. And I think that that's important, particularly given that we have a very aging demographic. The brand, the NRMA, is, if you will, it's almost like the Telstra, or the telecom back in the day that your parents may have subscribed to. They wouldn't dare change, or wouldn't have any of this other stuff. Some of you may remember a business once upon a time. My grandfather used to love it. He used to buy it once a week, pretty much to yell at people, ring them up and try and negotiate prices on what they were selling. If you've seen The Castle, you know what I'm talking about. The Trading Post. That went really well when that went digital. Just ask the purchasing partner that's stock valued completely. We're not going to take the open road away from people. Thrifty car rental. Travel lodge holiday parks. We've actually got our own NRMA holiday parks in all the destinations people like to travel to. NRMA Motor Serve. We actually have servicing dealerships. These things are amazing. You could eat off the floor and you get a glass window to have a look at your car being serviced so you can see if people are eating off the floor. The NRMA Safer Driving School. More for members. When you get your membership, we are more than just your roadside assistance. We offer you up discounts on anything you can possibly find. We work with companies like Ticket Tech and Ticketmaster in order to be able to get ticket discounts. We work with retailers to get retail discounts. We really look at a customer-centric, collaborative kind of project to make sure that not only do we make the most money out of people, but we give them every reason, known to man that they need to stay and maintain this membership. NRMA advocacy. You'll probably see that the NRMA is on most TV networks most nights of the week. We have a lobby group that literally lobbies governments around, safety issues that pertain to the road on every other day of the week. And that, from a content play, is a very big piece. When people want to engage in that content piece and know about road safety, their children first get their license, international driving license permits, we are a source content-wise that drive a great audience. We have two sections within content that are probably our highest drivers. One is car reviews. So we are an independent reviewer of all cars. We have a completely transparent model. It doesn't matter if anyone wants to give us money on their site for their car review. We have all the car reviews all listed there, right down from your 120Y Datsun from way back in the day, right through your current model Teslas, etc. It's a good content driver that obviously puts people in the sales funnel for us. Additionally, advocacy is also another piece, and fuel prices. People want to get on and find out where they can get the cheapest fuel from and what the going rate is. Lastly, in that customer-centric, business diversity piece, we actually have a division, innovation. And what that's about is we give grants to businesses, or to start-up businesses particularly, that want to, and we do it once a year in order to be able to help start their business. It was if you will, it was an initiative of Tony Stewart, and it was kind of looking at, we've got 2.4 million members. Who wouldn't do business with us? How can we potentially own this business? A lot of businesses will potentially break their markets away and move into silos. They'll become dual brands. It's because they don't want the cheap thing to sit here and that to sit there. We haven't done that. What we've done is we've tried to create a more, as I say, use this 2.4 million member database and look at a customer-centric approach. Some of the successful investments that we've made is Camplify. It's like may not have heard of it. It was one last year's. It's an Airbnb for caravans. Care Seekers. Again, if I take you back to my billy cart sales days, we have an aging demographic at the NRMA. Believe it or not, but some people actually leave their gold NRMA membership in their will to pass down to somebody else. Pretty interesting thought, right? And so with that being in mind, we created, we worked with a business, Care Seekers, in-home services, and people that obviously are then looking for carers to come out and work with them. Wonderwalk, it's a pocket tour guide. Eating, entertainment, events, tickets, all within that. And these are all services that we push out to our members particularly in order to be able to get them to engage with our business. Our recent challenge. NRMA is well renowned for service. The guys that we put on the road, every year they get paid more. Every year we look at rights for the employers, and we make sure that they're safe, and we put them in the best possible gear, put them in the best possible cars on the road. We make sure that they're looked after in the environments that they are, and it all costs money. Our ageing demographic want to talk to somebody in the call centre. They don't want to go online. So it is one of our bigger issues is a high cost of service. Again, our ageing customer base. It's a challenge because again they want that high cost of service, and the other thing too is they're passing on their membership as they vacate, and sadly that drops our customer numbers down. Migrating customers to digital is a challenge when you're actually really renowned for service. You know, some people get frustrated by a self-service model. Some people love it. How do we make that work? The cost of competing on shared brand terms. It's definitely a challenge. For both us and IAG, when people are searching for your brand terms, your bounce rates are high. People are touching you. People are assuming that one is the other. We send over 20,000 calls through our call centre on a monthly basis to our shared brand term. You can imagine that does a lot for our net promoter score when they come in via our call centre and have to go out to another call centre. But we still work quite hard to make sure that we can maintain that. But again, it's a challenge for both their business and ours. And it's not something that people really know. New generation, not valid, so I left out one. The growing competition in the industry. We played in green fields once upon a time. Nobody wanted to touch road service. Now, and partly it's probably because of the demutualisation, is that we've got more insurers popping up and saying, we can do road service. And it's a pretty tough statement for marketers when they say, we're growing at 50% year on year, from 2 cars to 4, is the tough component. The new generation not valuing insurance as much. It's okay, I'll never break down, it will be all right. And lastly, and I'm sure everybody's business is potentially facing this, internal priorities. In the organisation in which that we work in, which we're changing and we're moving, particularly with our new CEO, to a very, lean and agile environment. But before that, and some businesses that have been around with the history of the NRMA are very, very insular. The sales team is here and they're responsible for what comes into the call centre. The marketing team got the leads and everybody's expected to close them. The digital team are expected to close this to the funnel for that, and those lines are very unclear. Then you've got the external stuff, the technology. We need it. We want a new CMS. We want a new email send database. We want a new, and I say this very lightly because my ICT buddies are just over here. It's hard for them to be able to prioritise who gets what in what order. When businesses are lacking sales and they're crying out for it, it then goes to obviously hurt your cash and your bottom line for your division. It's a lot of challenges, right? I'm feeling very great. I've only been with the NRMA for 6 months, so I guess one of the big things at the moment is I might be going through the phase that some of you are at this point in time. How do I work out digitally what is the next best step forward for my company in order to be able to achieve my goals? How do I put more cash in the bank, given that my leads SEM budget in my company right now sits with marketing? How do I best collaborate with one of the greatest lead referral sources in my shared brand terms? How do I, what is the best possible way for the NRMA on a digital perspective to move forward with sales? So as I kind of touched on before, sales is no longer an art, but it's a science. In the days whereby, as I said, I was selling with my billy card, I was taking a punt. Now I know because I can review the data and I can work what's worked, replicate. When I make a mistake or when I look at, has anyone ever used the Wayback Machine? It's a website that I guess pulls up old archived sites. So what it is that you did, 12 months ago. So when you pull out all your data of your GA and when you used Adobe and when people were writing on scratch tallies to say how you actually performed, you start to look through what is it that I was doing, analysing that data to go, what do we do well there? Why did we stop doing that and how we can replicate it? And I guess in the digital world, particularly when you may or may not in your business have 100 different people being able to touch the CMS and make changes and move things around, I always found that was a great tool to have a look. So I went through to have a look at that kind of stuff. I was quite fortunate, as I say, I've got 2.4 million pieces of data alone to be able to have a look how they came to us, how long and wherefore. In the time that I've been in NRMA, we've gone from using GA to implementing Adobe to be able to give us a lot more collective intel. Moving from and then moving into more of a test and learn, replicate successes, make changes and be a lot more agile. So I guess that brings us down to the point that a lot of people have talked about, attribution. What is it that you are responsible for? And before you even get to this, I guess what is the best one for me, you've got to work out what are your goals. In my digital team alone, we have a content team, we have a social team, obviously we have an SEO and analytics team. In addition to that, outside of our division, we have a marketing team. And the marketing team are holding the SEM budget as well. So, and then you have your marketing team that create influence because they've got outdoor promotion that you can't really track. We've got all of this stuff taking place that's creating this kind of distortion of who really owns the sale that was brought into your environment. And I think the piece that we're starting to get to in our team or within our organisation at the moment is who potentially owns it. At the moment, it'd be fair to say we don't have a clear, concise attribution model, but we are looking at models right now to work out what is the best move forward for us to be able to say that is where a sale came through. The NRMA uses agencies, and I look at the agency data that comes through for our agencies, and I look at that data and I say, you're taking the credit for all my hard work. I did these sales. I optimised those pages. I made those decisions. All of a sudden, somebody ran an ad at some point in time, and it might be an ad in which that Gil says, a display ad, and you want to take credit because you tell me, I got the last click, or I got the first click, or whatever, in order to be able to validate. So we've got, I guess, fundamentally, if you will, 5 different attribution models. And what you need to take into account is, what does your sales cycle strategy look like? Are you trying to get people to read blogs? Are you trying to get people to view a display ad? Are you trying to get them to read a product review, go on see display ads, go through page search? What are you trying to do, and who are you prepared to credit for that sale? As a sales manager, I say it's mine. But this fundamentally is the question that you need to ask yourself internally: is it important that everybody gets credit, or is it important that, of course, we work out, well, you were the last person, we went through 5 different touch points, so it lies with you. So you've got, I guess, attribution model, the last click. So that basically means that somebody could have come in organically originally, they might have been referred through an affiliate, they might have read a car review, but their purchase decision before they actually signed up was a paid ad. So are we going to give it to them? Are we going to give it to the car review? Who are we going to give it to? The first click method. I was first introduced to your business by. Now, I may have touched 17 different things in order to be able to feel at home with my decision to purchase, but I was first introduced to your business by the paid ad, by the display ad, by your organic search. The linear method, we're going to give equal attribution to every single touch point. If you came through and you did everything, then credit where credit's due, everybody's going to get a touch point. Position-based. We give 40%, most position-based is done by this, we'll give 40% to the first touch point, because that was the introduction. We'll give a little bit to every other touch point in between, and we'll give 40% at the end to what made you buy that decision, so that we know who's the introducer and I guess who is but of course give a little bit of credit in between. Or there's the time decay, and the time decay probably in some cases is partly, I guess, my frustration. Many people here run cookie track, look at your cookie pools, follow people, do display type advertising. So you may have in the time decay had them to go through. You're running retargeting campaigns where we're giving it all back to them after we've had multiple touch points. For our agency, or some of the agencies that we've used, both this business and in the past, what I tend to find is they're holding on to those cookies to the very last second as well, and they're getting a lot of my credit from hard work in which that all the teams in which that I've worked with do. In order to be able to look at the best possible attribution model for your business, you need to work out how heavy are we working in content. How heavy are we working in what is our go-to-market strategy? Is SEM where we're going to get most of our business from? And hang your hat on that. And as I say, I'm still coming to the conclusions, working collaboratively to say what's yours, what's mine, how are we going to share the successes of attribution? How are we going to know? You know, as I say, on top of this, we also get marketing come in and say, we did a billboard, it's got to be with us, and that really hurts. So I guess, you know, for each of you, attribution is a way of being able to be accountable for what you are accountable for, you know, your area of accountability. The question is your attribution strategy or your modeling is about how you're going to track that, to put your hand on heart and know that you've done the job that you're meant to do. And I guess that's part of where we're working to with the NRMA. Are we perfect at this point in time? No, we're not. But we definitely will get there. The next thing, and I know we talked about that, you know, more of an attempt at closed loop. It's not, you know, an omni-channel, if you will. So omni-channel is where, I guess, cross-channel is being done well and it's being reported on. So you're working in with your call center, you're working in with your sales, you're working in with your retail, and you're able to account for all of that. But the first test in which that I did with the NRMA that really gave me some tangible data as to the next decision I should make should be here, was using a call reporting software called Delicon. Some of you may have heard of it. It's call tracking, and ideally what I was looking at was mobile call-outs. I found that I didn't have the engagement that I wanted to with my mobile site. Was it A, not very good? Was it B, not having the right marketing call to actions? Or C, were people just using our NRMA service model and leaving? And expecting that someone's going to pick up the phone quite fast and do that. What I found, particularly in relation to SEM, was that people were actually just using my brand terms in order to be able to find my phone number and ring up and tell me that their car's got a flat battery or a flat tyre. And so as a result, I was finding that 65% of my branded SEM was actually in vain. It's probably one of the best, most expensive, but best lessons I probably learned. And I guess that's where, you know, now that we know that we can learn that by trying to close the loop, the next step forward to us is, what's the modelling formula look like? What do the touch points equate to? As I say, the example, you know, a SEM click through to a web chat to get content, and this is an internal pain point of mine at the moment. Is we've put web chat on our website to get engagement levels and teach people how to use the site. It's not an easy site by any means, and they contact the call centre via the web chat. The call centre runs web chat. Every time I get on the web chat and I test it myself, the person tells me, that's a very good question. Why don't you call us on 1311 blah, 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 and we'll be able to help you with that. And so I met with the guys in the sales team and in the call center and went, guys, this is killing me. Like every single time I get, that's a great question, give me a call. I said, you've got to go back there and find out what the problem is. If you don't have the answers to engage in the conversation, let me help you. And it came down to that the call center is KPI, dollar per contact. And so ultimately, if they don't get the sale, then they're wrecking their own commission. And again, this is where we need to make sure that we work together to come up with what that overall attribution model looks like, because we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And that's not going to help with the longevity of our businesses in the future. Learn from your data, model your pathways. Make sure that, every lesson, whether it be a wrong lesson, I know that, the three boys in front of me all had that same thing. Learn from your mistakes. And if you are looking at your data on a regular basis and you're embracing that data, you will learn very quickly. And I think that, the future of what we do is going to be have that closed loop attribution. It is going to be that marketers are going to be accountable, just as accountable as salespeople to hit their KPI. But it's just a matter of finding out the method and the formula that's going to work best for you. And I'm done. String time.